So if I'm here to talk about why Africa is a new destination for investment capital, we have a convening power as the government of Rwanda to make it happen. So I'll start with a statement that we've all talked about that is so common. And I think this statement sometimes even begins to irritate us. Africa is a continent of vast potential. And this is indeed no longer an aspirational statement, but it's a growing reality in the world. A reality that is already impacting global economic dynamics. Africa is not a new destination for investment capital, I have to say. If you're not already here as an investor, you're really running behind time. And I want to consider 5 things that I want to put forward as to why financial markets must drive investment capital towards Africa. But before I do that, allow me to put this conversation a bit more into context. An old woman and a young lady. This lady walks up to the old woman with a bird in her hands. She holds the bird and asks the old woman, "Grandma, can you tell me if this bird is dead or alive?" The grandma put his head down, reflected, and then she gets back to the young lady and says, "The answer is in your hands." The young lady is confused. "Grandma, what do you mean?" Grandma explains, "If I tell you the bird is dead, you will open your hands and allow it to fly. If I say the bird is alive, you will squeeze it and kill it to prove me wrong. So the answer of the live or dead bird is in your hands." The answer to investing in Africa is still in the hands of investors, but we have a responsibility to be sure we tell them what is it that they're missing. So 5 things I would like to outline today. One is the great things we've all spoken about for 3 days, which is our demographics and the market size. Africa, especially sub-Saharan Africa, has the youngest population in the world, with 60% of that population being under the age of 25, presenting an unparalleled opportunity for the continent's growth. Africa's young and rapidly growing population means that by 2050, half of the world's labor force will be in Africa, even if we believe AI is coming to take off that labor force strength. We believe AI is going to enhance that labor force. But most importantly, that population means a massive future consumer base. And this is projected that by 2030, Africa's consuming spending will reach $2.5 trillion, reflecting enormous potential across various sectors and contributing to long-term economic resilience. You will want to invest in an area where you know people are going to be consuming what you're providing, services or goods. Additionally, the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, which covers an area of over 1.5 billion people, is the world's largest single market, and we call it a sleeping giant. Through the AfCFTA, we sit on a monumental opportunity for economic integration, projected to boost intra-Africa trade by 50% by 2030. However, and as we say in Rwanda, ariko, which just means but, that potential and its success hinges on active participation of the private sector. I want to recall that private logistic firms in West Africa have already begun harmonizing cross-border transport systems under the AfCFTA guidelines, demonstrating what is possible when businesses lead. This combination of a large single market and a youthful energy gives Africa an edge in comparison to smaller global markets with mostly aging populations. So you will agree with me that indeed, our demographics and our market size makes it possible that investment in one country gives you access to 53 others. A second point I want to put as to why Africa is the investment market, not the new one, is the abundant natural resources and economic potentials that exist. Again, this is not going to be news to any of you. Africa boasts the most abundant natural resource reserves, raw materials, and ecosystem services, including minerals, oil and gas, forests, etc., which are crucial for global industries. Approximately 30% of the world's mineral reserves are located in Africa. Africa is home to the world's largest arable landmass, and 65% of that landmass is still underutilized, with the potential to boost global food security. Africa has the second largest and longest river systems in the world, with potential for renewable energy. The continent is also rich in biodiversity. And of course, the second largest tropical rainforest is here. This is just to list some of the natural resources that we have and many more that we all know of. These natural resources provide the continent with a unique opportunity to trigger economic and human development. They are all ripe for investment that can generate revenues sustainably. Africa is shifting the narrative from the talk of resource cause to the resource opportunity and structuring investment in ways that will benefit our people. And I want to just mention one example of that in terms of what I believe to be the development time bomb that we are sitting on. With the vast abundant land endowment, African agriculture should be playing a greater role in feeding the world. All these are areas where investment capital can play a critical role. I'll move to my third, and I hope you're counting with me. Vast opportunities in infrastructure investment is a third area that I believe makes Africa the destination capital of the world. Infrastructure development in areas such as energy, water and sanitation, affordable housing, transportation, and telecommunication can drive economic development and present investment opportunities which will radically change the Africa development landscape. Initiatives such as the Program for Infrastructure Development in Africa, PIDA, are aimed at addressing the gap by fostering cross-border projects in key sectors to improve connectivity and facilitate economic integration across the continent. Our governments are increasingly turning to PPP, public-private partnerships models, creating fertile ground for international investment in critical infrastructure. According to the World Bank, private capital has contributed between 15 and 20% of total investment in infrastructure in developing countries. There are several PPPs that I want to mention, some of them that have been of great success. We've heard about the Dolphin Coast, Limbi District Municipality in South Africa, the toll road from South Africa to Mozambique, the Maputo Port in Mozambique, multi-utility provision in Gabon, TENT's power purchasing agreement in Tanzania, and ecotourism concession in South Africa, to just name a few. And part of infrastructure is for us to also discuss a bit more on the digital economy potential that exists on the continent. Africa's digital economy is rapidly growing, presenting significant opportunity for economic development across the continent, driven by increasing internet access. We also boost a young tech-savvy population. A dynamic tech and startup scene is emerging on the continent. Cities such as Nairobi, Lagos, Cape Town, and I'll proudly say Kigali, are fostering innovation and attracting venture capital. These cities are becoming innovation hubs, drawing global investors and talents. So Africa's technology landscape has indeed seen tremendous growth over the last decade. We've heard about the internet penetration rate, which is increasing and still growing. More people now gain access to smartphones. We are seeing tech startups that are flourishing. Sectors such as fintech, which is bringing us here today, e-commerce, agribusiness, and renewable energy are all leading the charge. I had many examples of fintechs in Africa, that has been leading globally, especially around the area of mobile banking. We host 70% of the world's mobile banking infrastructure and clients. M-Pesa in Kenya is just one example that I'll mention. So that means our infrastructural development, technological announcement, and the potential that exists is huge. So investment in Africa should be possible. Ladies and gentlemen, before I say this all, I have to really mention UNDP's flagship initiative that contributes to this discourse and that we do across the continent. But before I do that, I want to put this into context for those of us who studied economics. It's a subject I still hope to continue to learn, and I hope I do so in my lifetime. One of the concepts that we study in economics and that allows us to be able to make analysis is opportunity cost. And what baffled me the first time I got to experience and understand, to learn opportunity cost, is the way it is explained. That opportunity cost is the alternative you forgo. Meaning that which you could have done but you didn't do with the amount of resources you have is the cost of what you do. Let me put this in a layman terms in which I can even understand it myself. I am here myself today as UNDP representative speaking to you. If I am not here at this particular time, almost 7 minutes past 10, what could I have been doing with my time? I could have been writing a paper, getting it published, and get paid. So the cost of my being here and speaking to you is the alternative of what else I could be generating resources for. I hope you're following and to be able to come with me together. The cost of an investor not investing in Africa is the loss you're making even by investing somewhere else. The opportunity cost of investment is really some of the evidence we need to bring to the discussion. So I must pause here to highlight UNDP's own flagship program, which is called the Timbuktu, which is the largest initiative on the continent seeking to galvanize the innovation and startup ecosystem. Through Timbuktu, UNDP is setting up 54 university innovation pods. We've already set up 13 of them, and one of the shining star among them is the Unipod here at the University of Rwanda. If you still have an extra time, I'm inviting you, and I'll be your tour, to take you through that Unipod and see the incredible amount of young innovators that are building up their ideas for ideation, creating, and also creating solutions for business. And we are hoping, indeed, that this will be the case for all 54 countries in Africa. We are also setting up 10 thematic hubs. The thematic hubs, those that I easily remember, of course, is the one in Rwanda, the Health Tech Hub, which was launched by His Excellency the President here last year in November, which brings together innovators across the continent in the health sector. And I have to say, when UNDP launched the call for innovators, we received 935 applicants, a huge number, over 40 countries in Africa. And we were able to shortlist 40 that are going through an incubation program. I'm very happy that during this IFF forum, we've been able to meet with some potential partners that will also handhold these innovators and really take their businesses to scale. So we are no longer going to be in the situation where people are telling us resources are available, investors are ready, but they cannot meet the ideas. And this is exactly the foundation that UNDP is playing. The idea is to nurture and grow viable African businesses that will impact the world. No other institution than UNDP can field an undertaking at this scale and ambition. We intend to mobilize and raise $350 million in catalytic capital through our affiliate Timbuktu Africa Innovation Foundation, which is actually headquartered here in Rwanda. This catalytic capital will be co-invested with commercial investment capital to fuel businesses' growth across the continent. I encourage you all to visit our booth, and many of you have done that while you're here, but please do, we can tell you a lot more about this exciting initiative and how we can partner together. I am close to ending by highlighting the fifth reason why Africa is ripe for investment capital. I hinted a little bit on the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, but this is around policy reforms and improved business climate. Africa is implementing reforms aimed at strengthening transparency, the rule of law, and governance frameworks. These are essential ingredients to fostering an environment that bodes well for investment. Streamlined investment regulations, tax incentives, and special economic zones have emerged to make it easier for businesses to set up and expand operations. Again, the AfCFTA presents great opportunities for investment across the continent, where investment in areas like healthcare, education, financial inclusion address critical social needs while offering strong economic returns. Ladies and gentlemen, Africa is ready. Africa is the future. The question is not why Africa is a new destination for investment capital. The question is, why are you not already investing here? So I close by leaving a bit of a takeaway and maybe a task for KIFC, ourselves, our global partners from Singapore and everywhere else. A suggested task that we should undertake a study that estimates the cost of not investing in Africa and bring those results to such forums and every other forum. Thank you for your attention.